The red dust swirled like blood in water. As Jaron Moss fought with the controls of his dying spacecraft, alarms screamed through the cockpit, mixing with the howl of Martian winds tearing at the hull. He'd been on a simple reconnaissance mission, charting mineral deposits in the outer territories, when the solar flare hit. Now his navigation systems were fried, his communication array was silent, and the ground was rushing up to meet him with terrifying speed. "Come on, baby, stay with me," he muttered, pulling back on the yoke with every ounce of strength. The ship shuddered, responding sluggishly to his commands. He could see the colony now a sprawling complex of domed structures connected by transparent tunnels, glinting in the rust-colored landscape. But he wasn't going to make it that far. The impact came hard and fast. Metal shrieked against stone as the ship carved a violent trench through the Martian desert. Jaron's head cracked against the console despite his restraints, and his vision exploded into stars. The world spun, tumbled, and finally came to a grinding halt. Silence. No, not complete silence. There was a hissing sound, his oxygen reserves leaking. Jaron's training kicked in through the fog of pain. He unbuckled with shaking hands, grabbed his emergency pack, and slammed the manual release on the hatch. The thin Martian atmosphere rushed in, and he quickly sealed his helmet, checking the readout on his suit. 4 hours of air, maybe 5 if he didn't exert himself. He stumbled out onto the red sand, his legs screaming in protest. Looking down, he saw a piece of shrapnel embedded in his thigh, blood seeping through his flight suit. Not good. He limped away from the wreckage, knowing it would draw attention. The Martian colonies weren't exactly friendly to Earth pilots these days. Not since the mining rights dispute had turned ugly 3 months ago. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the dunes. Jaron found an outcropping of rocks and collapsed behind them, fumbling for the medkit in his pack. His hands were clumsy with pain as he tried to clean the wound. But before he could finish, he heard voices. They spoke in rapid Martian dialect. The vowels stretched, and the consonants clipped in that distinctive way that marked them as colony-born. Jaron held his breath, pressing himself against the stone. Through a gap in the rocks, he could see them 3 figures in environmental suits, moving with the easy grace of people who'd lived their entire lives in low gravity. "The impact site is this way," one of them said, his voice carrying in the thin air. "Vorn wants whoever survived brought in immediately. No exceptions." Jaron's heart sank. Vorn Tallis was notorious even among Earth's intelligence reports, a hard man who'd lost family in the early conflicts and who saw every Earth presence on Mars as an invasion. If they caught him, he'd be lucky to see a trial before facing a firing squad. "Wait," another voice said, younger and uncertain. "What if they're hurt? What if, then they'll be hurt in custody?" The first voice snapped. "Move." Jaron waited until their footsteps faded before attempting to move. His leg had stiffened, and every step sent fire shooting up his spine. He managed perhaps 50 meters before his vision began to tunnel. Too much blood loss. Not enough oxygen efficiency at this altitude. Even with the suit's help, he was going to die out here. That's when he heard the gasp. Jaren spun, reaching for the small plasma torch on his belt, hardly a weapon, but something. A figure stood atop the rocks above him, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Small, slender, definitely Martian by the proportions. The figure scrambled down with surprising speed, and in the dying light, Jaron could make out a young face behind the helmet visor. A boy, maybe 16 standard years, with the distinctive amber eyes of native-born Martians. Those eyes were wide with fear and something else concern. "You're the pilot," the boy said in heavily accented Earth common. From the crash, Jaron raised the plasma torch slightly. "Stay back." The boy kicks, though Jaron didn't know it yet, raised his hands. "I'm not with them. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I saw you fall. I snuck away from my group." He gestured at Jaron's leg, where blood had now soaked through the emergency bandage. "You're dying." Perceptive, Jaron managed through gritted teeth. "Let me help you." "Why would you do that?" Kix stepped closer, and Jaron could see he was trembling from fear or cold, hard to tell. "Because Vorn will kill you. He'll say it's justice for the miners who died in Sector 7. But it's not justice. It's just more death." The boy's voice cracked. "I'm tired of death." Jaron's arm wavered. the plasma torch dipping. If they catch you helping me, then we better not get caught. Kix moved to Jaren's side, ducking under his arm to support his weight. There's a place, old surveying station, abandoned. No one goes there anymore because the seals are supposedly bad, but I've been inside. It's safe enough. Why are you doing this? Jaren asked as they began to move, each step agony. Kix was quiet for a moment, helping Jaren navigate around a steep dune. My brother, he finally said. He was on one of those mining vessels, the one that got destroyed in the crossfire between Earth and Mars forces. He was 19. The boy's voice hardened. Both sides said it was the other's fault. Both sides said they were sorry. Both sides kept fighting. I'm not saving sides anymore. I'm saving people. They moved through the darkness. Kix's knowledge of the terrain keeping them clear of the search parties, whose lights Jaren could see sweeping the crash site. The boy was stronger than he looked, bearing more of Jaren's weight as the pilot's strength faded. What's your name? Jaren asked, his words beginning to slur. Kix Torin, Jaren Moss. He tried to smile behind his helmet. Thanks for not letting me die, Kix. Save your thanks until we actually get there. The boy replied, but there was a hint of warmth in his voice. The abandoned station appeared like a ghost in the darkness, a half-buried dome, with faded Earth colonial markings. Kix led them to a secondary entrance, pulling away debris that he'd clearly moved many times before. Inside, the air was stale but breathable, kept pressurized by some miracle of old engineering. As Jaren collapsed onto the dusty floor, his vision fading to gray, he saw Kix removing his helmet and reaching for a medical kit far more advanced than anything a teenage boy should have had access to. Stay awake, Kix urged, his face coming into focus above Jaren. My sister, she'll know what to do. She always knows what to do. Just stay awake. But Jaren was already falling into darkness. His last thought a simple one. He'd just put a child in terrible danger, and there was nothing he could do to take it back. Jaren woke to the sound of arguing. His body felt like it had been thrown down a mountain, then reassembled by someone who'd only seen a human in pictures. Every muscle ached. His head throbbed with a dull insistence, and his leg felt like it was encased in something warm and tight. You brought an Earth pilot here, to our sanctuary. The voice was female, sharp with anger and fear. Kix, have you lost your mind? He was dying, Nira. That was the boy from before. Kix. What was I supposed to do? Just leave him? Yes, exactly that. Footsteps paced across metal flooring. Do you have any idea what Vorn will do if he finds out? What he'll do to you? To me? To anyone who helped hide this man? Jaren forced his eyes open. The room swam into focus, curved walls, dim bioluminescent strips providing light, equipment that looked like a strange fusion of Earth and Martian technology. He was lying on something soft, his flight suit removed, replaced by loose Martian clothing. His leg was indeed bandaged, wrapped in what appeared to be regenerative mesh that pulsed with a faint blue glow. Two figures stood near what looked like a workbench. Kix, smaller and defensive in his posture, faced a young woman who could only be his sister. She was perhaps 22, with the same amber eyes, but where Kix's face still held softness, hers was all angles and determination. Her dark hair was pulled back in intricate braids woven with copper wire, a Martian style Jaren recognized from cultural briefings. She wore practical clothing, form-fitting and designed for the environment, with tools hanging from her belt. He's awake, Jaren croaked, immediately regretting speaking as both sets of eyes snapped. To him, Nira crossed the space in 3 long strides, her hand going to something at her hip. A cutter, Jaren realized. Industrial, but could definitely serve as a weapon. Give me one reason I shouldn't finish what the crash started, Nira. Kix grabbed her arm. I don't have one, Jaren said honestly, trying to sit up and failing. You're right. I'm a liability. But for what it's worth, I didn't ask your brother to save me. He did that all on his own. He met her fierce gaze. I'm grateful, but I understand. I'll leave as soon as I can walk. Something flickered in Nira's expression, surprise, maybe. That he wasn't arguing or begging. She studied him for a long moment, then lowered the cutter. You can't walk. That shrapnel tore through your femoral muscle. without the regenerative mesh. You'd have bled out hours ago. She moved closer, checking the readout on his bandage with practiced efficiency. Even with it, you need at least 3 days before you should even think about standing. I don't have 3 days. They're looking for me. They're looking for a body, Kix interjected. The crash was bad enough that Vorn's people think you probably didn't survive. They found your emergency beacon. I destroyed it and scattered the pieces. As far as they know, you either died on impact or crawled off to die somewhere in the desert. Nira shot her brother a look that could have melted steel. You destroyed evidence? Kix. That's necessary, the boy finished. It was necessary, and you know it. Brother and sister locked eyes in a silent battle of wills. That Jaren suspected they'd fought many times before. Finally, Nira exhaled sharply and turned back to Jaren. What's your name? Earth Pilot, Jaren Moss. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry your brother got involved in this. That makes 2 of us, she muttered, but the heat had gone out of her voice. She pulled up a stool and sat, studying him with clinical detachment. Why were you out here? The Earth patrols usually stay closer to the disputed zones. Jaren hesitated. Military protocol said to give nothing. But these people, this girl had saved his life at tremendous risk to themselves. Mineral survey. There are deposits out here that both our governments want to claim. I was supposed to chart them, send the data back, and that would support Earth's territorial claims. He grimaced. Not exactly heroic work, but necessary work for your people, Nira said, surprising him. Just like what we do here is necessary for ours. She stood, moving to a small cooling unit and extracting water pouches. She tossed one to Kix and brought another to Jaren, helping him drink. The water was cold and tasted faintly of minerals, pure Martian ice, probably from the polar caps. Thank you, Jaren said. Don't thank me yet. You're still a problem I haven't figured out how to solve. But her tone had softened slightly. She returned to the workbench, and Jaren could see now that it was covered in intricate machinery circuit boards, crystalline components, things he didn't recognize. What is this place? He asked. Kix answered, settling cross-legged on the floor nearby. Old Earth survey station from the first colonization wave, about 40 years ago. When the big colonies got built, places like this were abandoned. Nira found it when she was doing salvage runs 3 years ago. We've been fixing it up ever since. It's our workshop, Nira added, not looking up from the device she was assembling. I'm an engineer freelance, mostly. I modify mining equipment, repair atmospheric processors, anything that keeps the colony running. Kix is learning the trade. There was pride in her voice when she mentioned her brother. This is where we work on projects that are, let's say, not officially sanctioned. Like equipment for the underground market, Jaren guessed. A small smile tugged at Nira's lips. Smart, yes, like that. Mars Colonial Authority has restrictions on certain technologies, things they say are for safety. But really it's about control. We make sure people have access to what they need. She finally looked at him. We're not criminals, just practical. I wasn't judging. Everyone judges. The bitterness in her voice spoke of experience. Kix stood up, stretching. I should get back before anyone notices I've been gone too long. I told our unit leader I was checking the perimeter sensors. He looked at his sister. You'll be okay here, Nira nodded. Go. Be careful. And Kix, she waited until he looked at her. Thank you for having a conscience, even when it's inconvenient. The boy grinned, suddenly looking younger than his years. Learn from the best. He grabbed his environmental suit and headed for the airlock, pausing at the door. Don't kill him while I'm gone, Nira. I like him. You like everyone, she called after him. But there was affection in her exasperation. Once they were alone, the silence stretched awkwardly. Jaren watched as Nira continued her work, her fingers moving with practiced precision. She was beautiful, he realized, not in the conventional Earth way, but with that distinctive Martian elegance. All lean muscle and sharp focus. You keep staring, she said without looking up. Is this how all Earth pilots behave? Jaren felt heat rise to his face. Sorry, I've just never. I've seen Martians before, in negotiations and briefings, but never like this, never just. Normal, she repeated, finally meeting his eyes. You mean not trying to kill each other over rocks and ice? Something like that. Nira set down her tools and leaned back against the workbench. What's Earth like? I've seen the broadcasts, the propaganda footage, but those are always lies. What's it really like? It was Jaren's turn to be surprised. You want to know about Earth? I want to know what's worth killing for. Her expression was unreadable. Both sides keep fighting, keep dying, and I want to understand what could possibly be worth my brother's life, worth anyone's life. Jaren thought about how to answer, remembering home with a sudden ache. It's crowded, loud. The air is thick enough that you feel like you're swimming through it after being up here. The oceans are this impossible blue, and the sky is nothing like Mars. It's alive, always changing. He smiled sadly. But it's also tired, worn out. We've used up so much, depleted so much, that we need to expand, need to find new resources. That's what the Mars conflict is really about, survival. Mars is about survival for us too, Nira countered. This is our home, the only home most of us have ever known. Earth abandoned us here generations ago, said we were on our own. And now that we've built something worth having, suddenly you want it back. I know, Jaren said quietly. I know it's not fair, but I don't make those decisions. I'm just a pilot. No one's just anything, Nira replied. We all make choices. You chose to fly those missions, to help Earth claim what isn't theirs. And you chose to save me, even though by your own logic, I'm your enemy. That stopped her. She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Kix saved you. I'm just keeping him from getting executed for treason. Is that really the only reason? Nira pushed off from the workbench and crossed to a small window-reinforced glass looking out onto the Martian landscape. The sun was rising now, painting the rust-colored dunes in shades of crimson and gold. My parents died in the Dome 7 collapse, she said suddenly. Faulty seals that should have been replaced years before, but Earth made components and no way to get replacements. I was 17, Kix was 11. We survived because we were in the market sector when it happened. Jaren stayed silent, sensing she needed to speak. I raised him after that, made sure he ate, went to school, stayed out of trouble mostly. A hint of smile. And I swore that I would never let politics and territories and whose flag flies where matter. More than actual people, than actual lives. She turned back to him. So yes, maybe there's another reason I'm keeping you alive. Maybe I'm just tired of death too. The moment stretched between them, heavy with understanding. Jaren saw in her eyes a mirror of his own ex. The third morning in the sanctuary, Jaren woke to find Nira asleep at her workbench. Her head pillowed on her arms, dark hair spilling across circuit boards and copper wire. The bioluminescent strips had dimmed to their night cycle, casting her in soft blue shadows. She looked younger in sleep, vulnerable in a way she never allowed when awake. Jaren tested his leg carefully, surprised to find the pain had diminished to a dull ache. The regenerative mesh had done its work. He could feel the muscle knitting together. Stronger each day. He stood slowly, balancing his weight, and made it 3 full steps before Nira jerked awake. You're walking, she said, instantly alert despite the sleep creasing her cheek. Barely. But yes, he took another tentative step. Your medical technology is impressive. Martian innovation. She stretched, wincing at the stiffness in her neck. We got good at healing because we had to. Earth stopped sending medical supplies years ago. There was no accusation in her tone. Just statement of fact. How long were you working? She glanced at the time display on her bench. Most of the night. I had a contract deadline atmospheric scrubber for the Eastern Agricultural Dome. They're expanding their hydroponic gardens. She stood, rolling her shoulders. I should check your bandage. As she approached, Jaren found himself acutely aware of her nearness, the efficiency of her movements as she examined the wound. Her fingers were gentle despite their calluses, and he caught the scent of her, something like cinnamon and machine oil, distinctly Martian. It's healing well, she announced, stepping back. Another 2 days and you'll be strong enough to move on. We'll need to figure out where you're going. The reminder of his temporary status landed like a weight. Right, of course. An awkward silence fell between them, broken by the hiss of the airlock. Kix tumbled in, his environmental suit dusted with red sand, carrying a pack that clinked promisingly. Breakfast, he announced cheerfully. distributing ration packets and water. Plus, I brought real coffee, well, Martian coffee, which is basically chicory and optimism. But it's hot. They sat together in a small circle, an unlikely trio bound by circumstance. As they ate, Kix regaled them with colony gossip: who was dating whom, which families were feuding over water rights, how Vorn had declared the search for the Earth pilot officially concluded. Presumed dead. That's good news, Nira said. But she didn't sound entirely pleased. It means Jaren's safe, Kix pointed out, as long as he stays hidden until we can get him to the outer settlements. There are people there who don't ask questions, who might help him get to the neutral zones. The smugglers, Jaren said. The pragmatists, Kix corrected with a grin. Not everyone on Mars believes in Vorn's crusade. Some of us think trade with Earth is better than war. Nira shot her brother a sharp look. You're spending too much time with the fringe groups. I'm spending time with people who make sense, Kix countered. Speaking of which, there's a gathering tonight. Night market in Sector 4, the one that technically doesn't exist. He looked at Jaren with barely contained excitement. You should come. See what Mars is really like beyond the propaganda. Absolutely not, Nira said immediately. Are you insane? He'd be recognized instantly. Not if we disguise him. Kix was already plotting. Jaren could see it in his eyes. Environmental suit, full helmet. Say he's from one of the outer mining crews. They're always weird and antisocial anyway. No one would question it. It's too dangerous, Nira insisted. But Jaren found himself intrigued despite the risk. I'd like to see it. If you think it's possible. He looked at Nira. I've been fighting Mars for years, but I don't actually know Mars. I'd like to. Before I leave, something complicated crossed Nira's face: conflict, concern, and something else he couldn't quite name. Fine, she said finally. But we do this my way. Full environmental gear. You don't speak unless absolutely necessary. And you stay close to me at all times. Understood? Yes, ma'am, Jaren said, earning him an eye roll. Don't call me ma'am. I'm not your commander. What should I call you then? Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to charge with unspoken things. Nira is fine, she said quietly. Night on Mars transformed the harsh landscape into something almost magical. The market sprawled through a natural canyon system, protected from the worst winds, with temporary pressure domes creating breathable spaces, colored lights precious and rare strung between rock formations, casting rainbow shadows on the red stone. Jaren followed Nira and Kix through the crowds, marveling at the life he found there. Vendors sold everything from hydroponic produce to black market earth goods, handcrafted jewelry made from meteor fragments to illegal communication equipment. Music played from somewhere, a fusion of Earth instruments and Martian rhythms that he'd never heard before. People laughed, argued, negotiated, lived. It was nothing like the military briefings had portrayed. No grim survivalists or desperate colonists, just people making the best of their world. Try this, Kix said, shoving a food container into Jaren's hands. Inside was something that looked like bread, but shimmered with an opalescent sheen, lichen flatbread. Martian staple. Jaren lifted his helmet visor slightly and took a bite. The flavor exploded across his tongue, earthy, slightly sweet, with a tang he couldn't identify. This is incredible. Everything tastes better when it's grown in Martian soil, a gruff voice said nearby. Jaren tensed, but the vendor, an older man with a weather-beaten face, just winked. Even if we had to engineer the hell out of the lichen to make it edible. Terraforming works both ways, eh? We change Mars, Mars changes us. They moved deeper into the market, and Jaren felt himself relaxing despite the risk. No one paid him particular attention. There were dozens of people in full environmental suits, protecting their identities for various reasons, legal and otherwise. Nira led them to a quieter section where a woman sold books, actual paper books, impossibly valuable. Mara, Nira greeted her warmly. Anything new? Poetry from the outer settlements, Mara replied, her voice melodious. And some pre-war Earth novels. Romances, mostly. She gave Nira a knowing look. Your favorite? Nira's cheeks colored slightly. Maybe I'll stop by later. As they walked away, Jaren leaned close. Romance novels? Everyone needs an escape, she said defensively. Even practical engineers. I'm not judging. I'm actually finding it hard to reconcile the woman. Who reads romance with the one who threatened to kill me 3 days ago? People contain multitudes, Nira replied, but there was amusement in her voice. They reached an opening in the canyon where the pressure dome was reinforced with actual glass, providing a view of the Martian night sky. Phobos hung like a misshapen pearl against the stars, and Earth was visible to a blue dot that suddenly seemed impossibly far away. "There's your home," Nira said softly, standing beside him. "Is it?" Jaren surprised himself with the question. "I was born there, trained there, but looking at it now, it feels like someone else's life. War does that. Changes how you see things. It's not just the war." He turned to face her. "It's this. You, Kix, this market. The people living and laughing and making the best of a world that's actively trying to kill them. This is what I was supposed to be fighting against, and it's more real, more alive than anything I left behind." Nira's expression softened. "Jaren, I know it's complicated. I know I'm still the enemy, regardless of how I feel. But I need you to know that meeting you, seeing this, it's changed something fundamental in me." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted near the market entrance. Jaren saw people scattering, heard shouts of alarm. Kix appeared at their side, breathless. "Security sweep," he hissed. "Someone must have tipped off Vorn's enforcers. We need to go, now." They moved quickly, but not too quickly. Running would attract attention. Nira guided them through a side passage, a maintenance tunnel she clearly knew well. But as they rounded a corner, they found their path blocked by a figure in security armor. Well, the man said, removing his helmet. He was perhaps 30, with sharp features and suspicious eyes. "Nira Torin. Funny meeting you here, at an illegal market, during a security sweep, Ren," Nira said, her voice carefully neutral. "We were just leaving." "I bet you were." Ren's gaze swept over Jaren and Kix, lingering on Jaren. "Who's your friend?" "Don't recognize him from the colony roster. Outer settlement miner," Nira said smoothly. "Came in for supplies." "Really?" Ren stepped closer to Jaren. "Because we've been getting reports of unusual activity around the old Earth survey stations. And you know what else is unusual? You, Nira, spending time with a stranger right when we're supposed to be finding an Earth pilot." Jaren's hand moved instinctively toward his belt, but there was nothing there, no weapon, no tool, nothing but the plasma torch Nira had let him keep. "You're being paranoid, Ren," Nira said. "But that's nothing new, am I?" Ren reached for Jaren's helmet. "Then he won't mind showing his face." Nira moved with startling speed, stepping between them. "Don't touch him." "Why not, Nira? What are you hiding?" Ren's expression turned ugly. "Is this about us? About me choosing duty over whatever foolish thing we had? Are you really so petty that you'd harbor an enemy just to spite me?" "This has nothing to do with you," Nira said coldly. "Not everything does, despite what you think." The tension stretched taut as a wire. Jaren could see more security personnel approaching. "Do